G'day, thanks for joining us on a Thursday and maybe Friday when you're listening to this. But we're here for your drive home, for your drive to work, for your run, for your cleaning, for whatever you may be doing. We're here, we're talking footy. It's the off season now. It's officially the off season. So that leaves us nothing to talk about in terms of game time, but what we're going to be talking about is the free agency period. Now that players are available to move around and seek occupation with other clubs or other codes, there's plenty of storylines still in the NRL, and that's what we're here to talk about. We'll also dive into a couple of other topics, into a couple of other sports as well. We all know the Ashes are coming, and I'm not talking about between Australia and England in rugby league. I'm talking about the Ashes, the more prolific Ashes between Australia and England with the red ball and blokes in white pants and white shirts. Test cricket is about to be here, and I'm very excited because I love me some red ball cricket. I'm more than happy to lay on the lounge like a lizard, sit there for 6 hours a day for 5 days straight and watch ball being bowled after ball after ball after ball. I'm more than happy to do that. Unfortunately, I can't. You have things to do. Life is there. But if in a perfect world, I would do that for 5 days straight. Nevertheless, we're going to start with NRL because there is still plenty of player movement, and probably the most notable of those players is Daly Cherry Evans signing with the Roosters for the 2026 season with a player option for 27 should he decide to continue his career or not. We're not sure of the financials. I haven't seen any solid reports of money. So I'm not sure on how much he's going to be earning, although it's the Roosters. The Roosters would probably do what the Roosters do and give him quite a bit of cash. He was already on quite a bit of cash at Manly, so I can't really see him leaving that for much of a pay cut, if a pay cut at all. He may have even gone up in pay, considering it's only 1 year. And the Roosters always seem to have plenty of cash lying around, whether that's above the table or below the table. We'll see. There's a few questions that then arise after this signing. One of them being, does he wear the 6 or the 7? Sam Walker played incredibly well last season, returning from injury. Although it was only a third of the season, he still showed not only Roosters, but the whole entire league that he's a premier half and he does his best work in the 7. Roosters also put a large investment into Sam. They stuck with him through other halves, through injuries, giving him the 7 when he was available and fit as well over other players. So Sam can play 6, but you would like to see the club back him again and keep him at 7. But then you have another question is, did the Roosters bring him over to play 5'8"? Who knows? We don't know how this is going to play out. I assume the Roosters will probably figure it out in the preseason training and then in the preseason games. They'll probably find what their best combination works. I can see DCE going into that role the exact same way that Luke Brooks did, playing 7 at West, coming over to Manly to fill that 6 void, and he's done quite a good job alongside Daly Cherry Evans, who is more of a 7. But I could see DCE doing the same thing, sliding into that 6, that second receiver role, letting Sam Walker continue his development as a true 7, continue his development leading the Roosters around the park and just learning off DCE as DCE kind of takes that step back in terms of leadership and in terms of running the show on the field. I can see him taking that step back for Sam, and I would actually like to see that. It would show a lot of self-awareness and selflessness from DCE. It would also show that the Roosters are staying true to Sammy and they're backing him 100%, which also would give Sam even more confidence to then play well for the Roosters. So it's a win-win if you put DCE in the 6 and Sammy, keep him in the 7. it's a win-win for kind of both parties should DCE be open to that step back. Another question. What does it mean for my man Hugo Savala? If you've been listening to me, then you know how high I am on Hugo. I had the opinion that he should have won Rookie of the Year. I think what he did was more valuable for the Roosters in terms of in compared to other rookies. Not taking anything away from the rookies that were really high up on the list last year, but I just believe that Hugo played such a vital role and performed at a high level immediately. I loved what he did for the Roosters, working alongside Sandon Smith and Sam Walker. So it's understandable. It's Daly Cherry Evans. He has so many accolades. He's achieved so much in the game. He brings so much experience and leadership to the club. Although his best days are behind him, he still can play some good football. So Hugo's just the less capped, younger, less experienced player that just naturally is going to be cast into the shadows a little bit by this situation. Now, before I go more into this, I will say, and I did say this last week, but I do disagree with this signing. I think the Roosters should have continued the development and continued to gain experience with this combination of Savala in the 6, Sammy in the 7. Hugo is a true 7, but he can develop and further fill the role of the 6, and I could still see with further development of this combination, success. I could still see success brewing. They still made the finals. After a rocky opening start to last season, they still made the finals and they were still really competitive and exciting to watch. They had points in them, and a lot of that was because of what Hugo and Sammy could execute on the park. So I do disagree that signing DCE, for 1 year, I don't think that gives the Roosters a 10x chance to win a premiership. It might increase their odds slightly for one season, but I don't think that's worth blowing up this working combination. A combination that's still young, still developing, still in its infancy, that I then think further down the line in a year or two could have bred major success. Consistent finals trips, consistent deep finals experience, minor premierships, grand final appearances. I think that they had that in them. So I do disagree with this, but nevertheless, it has occurred. Deals have been done. He's in Bondi. So now it's just what are the ramifications of DCE moving into the halves? For Sydney, I love the way Hugo plays. He showed last season that he has the absolute ability to start in the NRL for a team. What do we do with him? Now, I did see Chad Townsend suggest maybe move him to lock or for Hugo to come off the bench. I think lock would be quite interesting. He is a big body. He's quite a big half. And physically, he is quite developed already for a young player with room to still continue that physical development in the next couple of seasons. Lock would be interesting, but they already have Radley and Nafahu White, who are better players than him, no matter what position. So what it means is he may look for another home, which would be upsetting to see, particularly for me, but understandable at the same time. He's 23. He's proven himself. There would be a market for him. There's not a lot of good halves around, particularly ones that are young, proven, and ascending. So he's got leverage. Hopefully he has a good manager. If he wants out, it's understandable, and he would find himself a new home and probably could find himself a good deal too for a young bloke. Would he consider New South Wales Cup? 20 minutes a game off the bench for the Roosters for a year, possibly 2 years. Depends on the type of bloke he is. Depends on his support network around him and what they're saying. I don't know him. I haven't heard a lot of interviews with him, so I can't speak on where his mentality is in terms of that, whether he's open to sitting and then putting his career kind of on pause almost, and then, going straight back into that role once DCE's retired or moved on, or whether he's very keen, ready to go be a halfback or a 5'8" somewhere else and just continue his progression on the field as a starting half. I can't speak to where he is on that. But like I said, either way, it's understandable. Either way, I'm still a fan. I think he's got many fans out there that do see the potential in this kid. Do the Roosters increase their chances to win a grand final with Daly Cherry Evans? I would say yes, but yes, but man, does DCE have to play the right type of role alongside Sam Walker. Sam Walker he's so creative. He's so creative. We saw that last season. We saw what he can do off the cuff. Second phase footy, we saw what he can do. So you don't want to take too much ball out of his hands. So DCE needs to play the right type of role for success to be seen for the Roosters, for this signing to be worth it. But nevertheless, can I see maybe they win that elimination game that they lost last season? Maybe they could win that game with DCE and get to the next week in finals footy, but anything past that, I can't see that much value being brought to the club by DCE in terms of winning those extra games at the end of the season. The value I can see is nurturing, mentoring, leading Sam Walker and Hugo if Hugo decides to stay. That can be invaluable, but that's not going to be seen by us, by broadcasters, the Roosters, in a year, 2 years' time, when you can start to see that come out in their game. But nevertheless, it is done. He is in Bondi. He is wearing the navy red and white for 2026 and potentially beyond. So we'll see. It creates more interest in the Roosters. I already love watching them play because they are so exciting in attack. So this only adds to that interest and to the entertainment of the NRL. So it is positive, but there also may be some negative consequences for certain players, depending on how the rest of this offseason navigates itself. All right. The big news, the upsetting news, the concerning news of Eli Katoa now confirmed by Melbourne that he will miss the entire 2026 NRL season. Man, this is it's just heartbreaking for him, for his family, for his teammates. And it just proves that as more information comes out, the worse it seems to get. The longer the timeline seems to get. Now, reports are that he is recovering well in Melbourne now after the surgery in Auckland. But this is a tough one, an unprecedented one, but a tough one. We have to wait for the official investigation report to come out by the NRL. That is not released yet. I'm sure that investigation will be thorough, will be detailed, will be in-depth, because with the consequences that have been reported so far, you have to do him justice and investigate the shit out of it. Figure out what happened, what went wrong, who's at fault, if there even is someone at fault. The doctors, Tonga could have done everything that the protocol states. But at the end of the day, it's Eli Katoa. If he passes the HIA tests again and again, and he says he's good to go, it's hard to tell a player to stay out of a game that is representing his country, his family, that has consequences because they needed to win that game to have any chance of making the final. It means so much to these players. There is a duty of care. Now, there's so much being talked about of whether Tonga saw the footage of the warm-up hit, whether the team doctors did the appropriate tests before the game, whether the duty of care in the game extends outside of the game, whether you have to... duty of care is so grey sometimes, depending on who you ask and whether it's Tonga, whether it's Melbourne. I think the NRL was controlling that game, so they should have similar doctors. They should have doctors that have experience with the right HIA protocols. But there's just so much, and I've compared this to boxers. When does the trainer throw in the towel? And it's so hard for that trainer to make that decision because, you do have a duty of care. You're doing it for the best interest of the player, the athlete, but at the same time, it's like they're the ones on the field. They're the ones in the ring. They have to be the one to decide whether they're willing to put their health at the ultimate risk. So it is such a tough one, and I don't feel for anyone. I do feel for anyone involved that was immediately involved, and that Tongan medical staff and coaching staff must just be feeling sick to their stomach that Katoa is just in this state and has to have an entire season off, and we don't even know if that's going to be the extent of it. He may not play again. It sounds hyperbolic, but it maybe not too hyperbolic because he may never play again, and then that brings on more ramifications of lawsuits, compensation. What does it mean for Melbourne? They need a roster spot filled. They need salary cap relief. There's just so much up in the air, legal-wise, medical-wise. Rugby League Players Association in the next negotiations will have more leverage to say, look how dangerous this game is. Look at this. Our players need to be compensated more so. They need to be protected more so. And rightfully so. The players are the ones constantly putting their bodies through it, their minds through it, their families through it. So no doubt I'm with the RLPA, but there's just so much to this story, and really you just have to wait and see how this plays out, how he recovers, and that's the main thing really, is just hopefully he recovers. Whether he plays again or not, you just want him to recover to a point where he can then live life the way that he wants to without being hindered, and the way that he wants to with his family as well. So that's the main thing, and that's what we can all hope for in the future, is that just Ellie just recovers well. So that is the main thing. New reports coming out that Jaden Campbell could be signing with the Perth Bears. This one caught me by surprise. I did not even think of this at all. Reported deal, 1.2 mil a year over 5 years, so a $6 million deal in total. Interesting. That is a lot of money for Jaden Campbell at this point in his career. Now, what is reported is that the Titans also had an offer on the table for him for about $850K a year. And I'm not sure in the length of deal that was proposed to him. Nevertheless, this bloke's got two deals on the table, and neither of them are pennies. He's going to be paid no matter which club he signs for. This bloke's going to be paid. He's 25 years old. He's got his best footy ahead of him. He's versatile. He's fast. He kicks goals. This bloke's got potential to be a superstar of the game, no matter what position he plays. I believe he is a fullback. I may be biased, but I believe his best role in the game is a fullback. So that then brings on the point of if he signs with the Bears, that gives the Bears versatility with Jaden in itself to play 1, 6 or 7, but also gives them versatility in who they then can sign next, depending on who's available. Because if they sign Jaden, let's say they've signed him to play fullback, if Pappenhausen then decides, he's going to have a year off and then he wants to play again for 2027, all of a sudden he's on the market. I said this a couple of weeks ago when the news first broke that watch out for the Perth Bears. But anyway, we'll move forward. If he then comes on the market and Bears end up signing him, that's easy for the Bears. It doesn't hinder them at all because then they can just go to Jaden and just say, they can just move Jaden to 6 or 7. Now, I also heard Toby Sexton's name get thrown out, have a year in the Super League and then at Catalan and then come over back to the NRL. And then if they want to sign him at 7 and they've got Pappenhausen or another fullback, then they just put Jaden at 6. It gives them a lot of versatility and a lot of flexibility in terms of future signings with Jaden. So it's a smart move to throw this on the table. It is a lot of money and it is an interesting first signing. Now, he hasn't signed anything yet. These are just rumors. Pretty good rumors, though. It makes sense, though. Titans, Bears ties with Mal, being a big boss man at the Titans recently, now being the head coach at Perth. So there are ties between clubs, which is also why you probably heard Sexton's name being thrown up there because he spent some time in the Gold Coast. I think Mal would get the best footy out of Jaden. No matter what position, Mal's got so much presence, so much respect in the game that any player that plays for him would be just going guns a-blazing and trying to play their best and just giving it their all. I don't think any player that plays for Mal would be phoning it in because he'd get rid of them super quick. The other aspect of this is that they've got to move the game to Perth. They've got to sell it over there. You can't have any players that are... Now, there isn't a player that is boring, but if you can understand what I'm trying to say here is that you need to have the most exciting players that you possibly can. Albeit good players takes precedent, but exciting just makes the ability to sell the game over in Perth a lot easier. Now, we did talk about that when the Perth Bears got officially announced. We went through some of the signings of players that were off contract at the time for 2027. And what we said we talked about Jordan Ricky, we talked about Britton Nickera, we talked about Cameron Munster and Pappenhausen. These players are exciting. These players are fast, elusive, great ball runners, great line runners. They're exciting. That makes it so much easier to sell the game in a state that is dominated by AFL. You need excitement. It's the same with the UFC. The fighters that get the most money, the fighters that get the most headlining fights in the main event and in main cards, yes, you have to win those fights, but you get rewarded if you're exciting. If you're winning by decision every time, you can still make the tippity top, you can still make the big bucks, but it's going to be a lot harder. If you're exciting, you could have 2 wins and a loss, but if you're knocking blokes out, if you're scrapping, if you're throwing shit all night, you're going to be rewarded by that company. And I think it's going to be, along similar lines going into Perth. You need excitement. You need flashy. Jaden brings that. So if he goes over there, I think it's a great signing. I think you're going to get his best football out of him. He's heading into his prime as a footballer. He's also heading into a situation with a head coach that is going to demand the best out of you. So I like it. If he signs, I like it. It also gives the Titans a chance to breathe. It gets rid of this headache of having 3 part-time fullbacks, part-time 5'8", part-time halfbacks. They've signed Kinney. They've signed AJ. They've got they've got an offer on the table for Jaden. If they get rid of one of them, that being Jaden, it gives them some room to breathe. Gives them a little bit more clarity that Kinney's your fullback. AJ can play 5'8" or centre. Sign another half. Sign another 5'8". If you have all 3 of them in there, You're constantly trying to figure out combinations that work, different positions. You get no continuity. You get no development of combinations because you're constantly chopping and changing. It's like how New South Wales were against Queensland in Origin when Mal was the coach. When Queensland just won 8 straight, New South Wales constantly trying to change things up to see what would work, and you got no continuity. You developed no connections, no cohesion between players, and it didn't work until it finally did. But the Titans need some room to breathe. They need some clarification on positions and players. So I think it's a win-win for the Perth Bears and for the Titans if he decides to if he decides to sign. Also, massive win for Jaden Campbell because $1.2 million a year, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a young kid, and it's definitely more than you would think that he's worth at the moment. But there are other factors. Going over to Perth, away from family, away from his home, going over and being a face of a franchise, there's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. You're not just there to play football. You're there to sell the game. You're there to improve stock of the NRL out west. It comes with more than just put your boots on, go on the field and try and win a game. You're also trying to win over Western Australia. So the money's not just for playing. It's also for being, almost a businessman. So win-win either way. Hopefully he gets it. I'm always happy with seeing players get paid. They're the ones that are the direct result of the success. Well, players and fans, but players are the ones that fans watch. So players are the ones that directly result in the NRL success. So any player that gets paid, props to them. Good on you. Love to see it. All right. In other sporting news, what else is happening around the globe? The Ashes starts this Friday, tomorrow, whilst I'm recording this. The start of a 5-day test match over in Perth at Optus Stadium. I can't wait. There's such a long gap between test cricket in Australia. The cricket summer in Australia it's unmatched. Honestly, you go... at least for me in the sports that I follow, you got the NRL, that season ends. The NFL's just picked up. We're in the middle of the season now. The NBA's just started. So, and then we go into Test cricket, and then you've got the Australian Open at the start of next year, and then we go back into the NRL, and obviously you got the UFC and boxing all throughout the year. So I just have no days off, and I fucking love it. There's always something for me to glue my eyeballs to, look at highlights, look at the scores that's going on. Sport is just the best. And I'm sure you have the same or a similar opinion if you actually listen to this bloke ramble on about said sports. So we love it. I love it. You love it. Let's continue to watch it and talk about it. No Pat Cummins. I don't know if it's for the entire series or whether it's just for this game. So things will be interesting. Interesting to see how England perform. I think they've got a new wicketkeeper who's also said to be quite a good batsman. So we'll see how that plays out. Ben Stokes being the captain, he can be a little bit inconsistent at times. I'm fully expecting, Australia to win this series. Probably 3-1-1. 3-1, 3 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. I could see that being the case. Australia are really good at home, really good in general, really good at home. So I cannot wait to just sit down, lounge around and watch over after over after over. And people say, oh, that's boring. How can you watch cricket? My entire life, people, how can you watch cricket? That's boring. Maybe I watch a T20 every now and then, but, I could never watch Test cricket for 6 hours. Just, it's so boring. Nothing happens. That's the point. You never know when something's going to happen. It could be 100 balls between anything exciting, but that 100th ball, someone gets their middle stump knocked out, someone nicks it, and there's a beautiful catch in the slips. You never know when the wicket's going to fall. It's so exciting. I love it. I don't care what anyone else says. I love it. LeBron James debuted last night for the Lakers in a win over the Utah Jazz and officially started his 23rd season in the NBA. That is an incredible statistic. It's an incredible journey of longevity that it's got to be studied. He's, in my opinion, the second greatest basketballer of all time. It's interesting to see how it plays out for the Lakers. Luka has been playing quite well. Austin Reeves has been playing quite well. But as we know, they both need the ball to have production. And so does LeBron James. There's a lot of duplication on that team. LeBron playing will take the ball out of probably Reeves' hand because Luke is the better player out of all three of them. So he will get choice of ball. So Austin Reeves' production will no doubtably go down. What it means for the Lakers' success is it's the same thing we talked about DCE. Does LeBron make the Lakers better? Does he make them worse? Are they the same team? Does it improve their chances to win in the West? I don't think so, to be honest. I think he's still a very good player. He's still a top 10 player, top 15. But they're just, Luke is the better player. He needs the ball. Is LeBron taking the ball out of his hands and then potentially taking wins out of the Lakers? Who knows? We'll see how it plays out. It's only the start, of the season. So we'll see how it plays out. That's about it. That's about all we have for today's episode. Plenty to talk about, though. It's the NRL off season, but there's still always so much to talk about. Oh, we didn't even say Zach Lomax. He got released by Parramatta with he'd be the most promising candidate out of the NRL to then sign with Rugby 360. But as we know with Rugby 360, there is a lot of shall we say, darkness about them. Who's the boss? Is there a website? Has Lomax even got a deal signed where he can afford to be released by Parramatta right now? Because he's not getting paid by Parramatta anymore. He's been released from his contract. He may have been paid out slightly. I'm not sure on that, but he's taken a risk. Will he be banned? What's happening with Payne Haas? We don't know. We just have to continue to speculate until we have answers. All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your attention and your time listening to me waffle on about things that I find interesting. So I appreciate that. As always, enjoy your weekend, whether you watch sport or not. Hang out with the family, hang out with mates, hang out with yourself, and don't be afraid to hang out with yourself. It's great. It can be great. Enjoy. See you later.